Hello everyone, and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be sharing with you something that honestly I never thought I would do. Today's video is going to be all about knitting, and specifically sock knitting. You may know from some of my other videos, or if you follow me on social media, that I love knitting and I have knit many a sweater. And when I started knitting, honestly, I thought to myself, I'm never going to knit socks. The needles are too small, it looks too fiddly, it looks frustrating. I can't imagine, I'm not gonna do it. And here we are. I have knit my first sock and I wanna talk to you about it. I'm really into it. I'm really having a lot of fun with it. So I'm just gonna jump in and share with you what I've been working on. So I've definitely mentioned that I was going to try and knit a sock on my channel before. I think I started this like a year ago and I didn't really know what I was doing. I put it down, haven't touched it since. And then recently I was working on a knitting project that honestly I just needed a little bit of a break from. And I thought, instead of casting on something new, likely another sweater, pick up the sock that you started and figure it out. Just figure it out and finish it. So that's what I've done. And I've made my first sock. So I have not blocked this yet. I did take some pictures. I tried it on and took some pictures because I was really excited to have finished it. And I will put one here. I shared over on my Substack as well. And I am having such a good time on Substack. If you don't follow me over there already, I'll put the link for that in my description. But I got so much love and support and encouragement from the community over there when I shared this. So thank you so much if you are one of those people. My first sock, I just want to chat with you about it. So I picked up this book, again, probably a year ago. I discovered Summer Lee here on YouTube, actually. She has a YouTube channel all about making socks and making sock patterns. And this is her book called The Sock Project. And I bought this book because the way that it's set up is basically she takes you through like a bunch of different sock projects that each have a different feature, and then you can kind of pick and choose. So the sock that I made is the very first one in the book, and it's called, I believe it's just like basic sock. Yeah, basic sock number 1. And the features of the sock that you're learning are the heel flap and gusset. So this is the sock. I don't know if it's gonna show you. So yeah, I made mine a little bit longer, but other than that, I did everything just like this. So that's the pattern that I used. The yarn that I used is Cascade Heritage. It's Cascade's sock yarn. It's a 4-ply fingering weight yarn. It's 80/20 superwash merino wool and nylon, and it's very affordable, which is why I chose it. Also, they have a huge variety of colors. This color is Christmas red. The skeins all are 100 grams, and typically, from what I know, you can get 2 adult socks out of 100 grams of fingering weight yarn. So a pair of socks for the, $10 or $12 that it costs for a skein of the Cascade Heritage felt like a really comfortable place to start for my first one. I do like it. I haven't blocked it yet, so we'll see how it kind of blooms, but it was easy to work with. I've knit with like Cascade 220. I'm pretty familiar with their yarns, and they do have a soft sort of commercial feel to them. It's not a rustic yarn by any means. I'm really happy with it. For the size, I chose the size medium, the adult medium, and I know a lot of people that talk about socks talk about size in terms of the stitches, like the stitch count for in the round. So this one, the body and what do you call this? Like the leg, I guess, of it was 64 stitches. I do think because I set this down and picked it up many months later, at one point when I was doing the heel, I followed the instructions for the small, but then I figured it out and switched back to following for the medium. So it's not perfect by any means, but hey, I've finished it. And I'll go ahead and show you the 2 features that this particular pattern have you work on. So the heel flap is this bit. It's kind of like double knitting, and it creates, you can see I messed up that row, it's not perfect, but it creates like this reinforced heel which is nice. And this is the gusset, this triangle of, you pick up stitches and then decrease basically to make that triangle. So a fairly straightforward sock with a little bit of ribbing at the top. You make this however long you want. I just tried it on and stopped when I was ready for the heel. The heel also has this little bit on the bottom of shaping that's like reinforced, which is nice, that you put your weight on. And then I knit the foot in the round, and the way that it decreases at the toe is symmetrical. And then you do a Kitchener stitch to close that at the toe. So it's by no means perfect. I did notice that when with this type of heel, because you're working the heel flap and you have stitches on hold and then you come back and pick up, I did get little holes like at that corner point, very similar to what I've experienced when knitting a sweater and you put stitches on hold before you do the sleeves and then you go back and pick up stitches for the sleeve. Sometimes you'll get those little holes at the underarm, and I figured out how to fix it on a sweater. I'm sure I could do something similar with a sock. I just didn't know that that would happen. So I do have like a slight gap at that corner. It's not a problematic hole. It's just sometimes that happens when you put stitches on hold and then pick up. As for needle size, I started working with a little short needle, mini circular needle. I think it was like a 9-inch with the US size 1.5, which was a 2.5 millimeter, I believe. And I knit in the round on that little circular shorty until I got to the heel, and it felt a bit fiddly to put stitches on hold and pick stitches up on that. So I actually ended up ordering a longer needle. So this cable is quite long. Hopefully you can see that. This is both needles actually are from ChiaoGoo. And my intention with this was to do magic loop, and I'm really familiar with doing that. Obviously sleeves and cuffs and other things, I've done a lot of that. What I didn't anticipate is that the needles themselves are quite long, like the length of the metal bit is quite long. And when you're knitting in the round, a tiny little circle, even doing magic loop, this was kind of annoying. It worked when I did the heel flap because I was just working back and forth, but then when I went to work the body of the sock, like the foot, when I went to work the foot again in the round, I switched back to the little short needled circular 9-inch. It was just a lot easier. And then when I got to the toe, when it got to be too small, I switched back to these and did like where it got to be really short. And I basically was working back and forth. So unfortunately, I unintentionally got a different size. So this is a 1, and what I did, the bulk of it was a 1.5 width. And I think in the future, I prefer the fabric from the 1. It's like a more dense, less open fabric. So I might need to find a 1, either the short circular or this or both, but with a shorter needle. And I can show you what I mean by the short circular because that's what I've been knitting my second one on. When I shared this sock on Substack, as I said, I got a lot of encouragement and a lot of really kind messages. And I think the way that I phrased it was, I finished knitting my first sock, just one, singular. It's totally acceptable to order more sock yarn at this point, right? Kind of tongue in cheek, but I got a lot of people that said, wait until you make the second sock because there's something called second sock syndrome. And once you've knit one, you just never get around to knitting the matching one, which was really funny. But I have begun the second one. So this is my second red sock, and I am knitting it on those little round, hopefully you can see, it's like a really short cable and the needles themselves are short. So let me show you that just for comparison. So this is the cable and the needle length is only that large, and I'll show you the other to compare as opposed to this one. So I think you'll be able to see This size needle, the smaller one, is much more manageable when knitting such a small circumference. And I found that the longer cable, when I wanted to do magic loop, it really wasn't useful. It was only useful when I was knitting flat back and forth, because the amount of stitches was like, this was too long of a needle. And so what I think I need to get is a size 1 of this style, as well as a longer cable with a size 1, but I need it to be a short needle. So I've looked a little bit and haven't found what I want. So I would love your suggestions if you know of long cable, short needles, like what brand or where to find those. I know that you can get sets of interchangeable shorties, they're called, the short needles, and then the cable being interchangeable, I could use the short one when I needed it and then switch it out for a longer one. That might be worth investing in if I really am going to be knitting a lot of socks, because then I could just use the little shorties and change out the cable when I wanted to. Again, I would love brand recommendations if you have suggestions. So on my second sock, because I've knit it all at once, I've made the medium, the 64 stitch consistently, and I also managed to knit the heel on the short circular. So I think I was just more comfortable to put half of the stitches on hold and just work back and forth to do the heel flap. And I did all of that on the short circle. So here's my heel flap, and it's also a little wider. I think because I knew I was doing the medium, I think I may have done the heel flap on the first sock as a small, but that's okay. And now I'm doing the gusset, that triangular gusset, before I do the foot. So I really have managed to do top down the entire thing on this little shorty, and I only anticipate having to switch when I do the toe, because it gets so small that I'll probably have to work flat on the longer cable. You could also use DPNs or double pointed needles. I'm not a huge fan of double pointed needles. They do feel quite fiddly. I'm scared of things falling off. And then if I set it down with like my kids and my dog and everyone, I don't know. The double pointed needles feel precarious. Like it could very easily all fall apart. At least when it's on a cable, I can put little stoppers on the end, like the little rubber stoppers, and then I can just throw it anywhere and it's fine. I don't think this stage of life for me is gonna work with double pointed needles. But as I said, I do want to find smaller needles with longer cables. So I will be on the hunt for that. And I only just started this like maybe a day or 2 days ago, and I've made so much progress. I think keeping it on the little loop as well has made it quicker. And once I get the heel gusset done, the foot of it, knitting in the round, went really quickly. So honestly, I imagine I'll have this done within the week. And that's really good to know, because I had no idea time-wise how long the first one took, because I left it alone for so long. I think realistically, I could probably knit a sock a week, like from start to finish, just working on it little bits at a time. I know some people probably could knit a pair of socks in a week, but I'm just getting started. I'm very proud to have not given up after the first one. Honestly, I felt very motivated to get the second one done. I'm really excited to wear these. I'm definitely going to be making more socks. I have ordered a little bit more sock yarn, and I want to share with you what I've ordered. I'm not sure if it will have arrived by the time I post this video. So if it has, I can insert clips of the yarn, and if not, I can just put product photos on screen for you. And I want to share with you what I ordered. But before I do that, I wanted to just briefly share why I wanted to make socks. I know I mentioned that initially I was hesitant and I didn't know that I ever would. What drove me to do it, in addition to just all of the beautiful socks that you see people making and sharing online, I really like the idea that I could have wool socks that could be relatively affordable and washable. So if you go and buy wool socks, typically they have to be hand washed, and they're expensive and you don't know when you buy them if they're going to be comfortable or fit you well or whatever. So I really like the idea, as I do with sewing and knitting my own garments, of choosing the color, choosing the fiber or the yarn or the fabric, whatever, making it fit perfectly. I really enjoy that aspect of it. And I also want wool socks in general because I feel like I'm always, like my feet are always kind of cold, but when I put on synthetic or synthetic blend even socks, I find that my feet get really sweaty. So I take them off and then my feet are cold, and then I haven't found socks that are comfortable to wear for a long time. And I've heard a lot of people speak well of wool socks because wool, as we know, works really well to regulate temperature, and it's also moisture wicking. So I'm hopeful. I'm gonna finish the second one, block them, wear them. I'm hopeful that this will be the solution for me, that I will have comfortable socks to keep my feet warm but not sweaty. That's my goal. And of course, I also love that I can choose the colors. There's so many different patterns to try. Even just within this one book, there's so many different options, like a ribbed socks, cabled socks, stripes, you can do color work. And it's small enough that getting whatever yarn you want at whatever color is like much more affordable than doing the same stuff on a sweater scale, obviously. So yeah, I'm hooked, I'm in. I'm ready to get the needles and get more yarn and really go into the sock making journey. I also think it's going to be perfect for spring and summer because this is all of the wool that you're ever gonna have like on your lap when you're working on it, you know? So it's incredibly portable. I could throw this in a bag, I could knit with it outside, and I'm not sitting underneath like a sweater quantity of wool on my lap, you know? So I think this is gonna be the perfect spring-summer project, and I really hope to make multiple pairs of handmade socks. My kids saw me make this one, and both of them were like, oh, will you make me a pair, you know? And because it is superwash and I can machine wash it, I'm much more willing to make them something with wool. So I let them both pick out a color, and I chose to get for my kids the Cascade Heritage again because it's really inexpensive and there's a huge range of colors. So I let them sit down on the Wool & Company website and scroll through all the colors and like pick their favorite ones, and I had them each narrow it down to one. So my daughter picked, let me get my phone. So the two colors that my kids chose of the Cascade Heritage, my daughter chose this really light pink. It's called Strawberry Cream, and I'll put a picture here if I haven't received it yet. And then my son actually wanted, it's called Violet Indigo. It's like a really deep, almost blue, but purple leaning. He really liked that color. And what's great about the Cascade Heritage coming in 100-gram skeins is that I mentioned an adult size pair of socks takes about like 100, yeah, it takes about 100 because it's 50 per sock. What I read from Summer Lee's book is that a kid-size sock, you could make a pair of them with 50 grams, which makes sense. They're much smaller feet. So theoretically, each of these single skeins of Cascade Heritage, I could get 4 kid-size socks out of it. So obviously I could make the solid pair that they've requested, but then I could also make stripes, or I could use the bit that's left over to do some of the color block options, where sometimes people will do like the toe and the heel in a different color, and that might be really fun to use the sock scraps with to do different colors. And then I wanted to try 2 different wools. This one being obviously like the most affordable option, the most variety of colors available. It's a very well-known and commercial yarn. I wanted to try a couple of others that I've heard people talk about on social media when they make socks, one of which is also very well known. It's Sandnes Garn Sisu, S-I-S-U, and those come in 50-gram skeins, so I did have to order 2 of those. And the color that I chose is dark chocolate. I believe all of these yarns are 80-20 wool to nylon, and the wool is superwash. So I think that's true for all of these. But with the Sandnes Garn, each of those was $10.75, so about $21.50, whereas this was $12 for the 100 grams. The Sandnes Garn Sisu is like $21 for 100 grams. So keep in mind, you know, we'll see if it's better to that degree. I'm very curious about it. I've heard people say that it's great. So again, I chose the dark chocolate color. It's a lovely brown. And then I also ordered one skein, because it's a 100-gram skein of Malabrigo Ultimate Sock in the color Azul Profundo. So the Malabrigo is a brand that I've heard people talk about. I really liked the color that I chose, and again, I'll put a picture up because it's like kind of variegated. So I'm curious to see how knitting with it, like, I don't think it's going to stripe, but I do think there's going to be some variation in the tone of blue. So I thought that would be a really fun one to work with. And that was similar in price to the Sandnes Garn, except with Sandnes Garn I had to get two 50-gram skeins, and with the Malabrigo it was one 100-gram skein, but it was also like $22. So I'm very curious to see if those sock yarns are like twice as good. Maybe they're much softer, maybe they're more dense. I really don't know. I just want to compare them to the Cascade. And if you have a sock yarn that you love and swear by and that wears really well, I would love to know your suggestions in the comments as well. I know that some people say that the Cascade pills more easily because it's kind of like a more smooth, like commercial yarn, whereas something that is a little bit more woolly might not pill as much. So yeah, would definitely appreciate your suggestions as far as sock yarns go. And I do also have one other sock yarn to try that I already have in my possession, and it's from Knit Picks. Whatever the Knit Picks sock yarn, is it Stroll possibly? I can try and put a picture of that here as well. It's kind of like a golden yellow color. So I think I'm gonna have a good variety with the red, the yellow, and then I ordered for myself brown and blue. And if I succeed in making myself 4 pairs of handmade wool socks, then I will consider ordering other yarn and also making for my kids, you know? So I think I have a good range of colors to work with. I am going to be on the hunt for needles just because I want the fabric to be really dense. I want these to be durable, and I am also interested in making ribbed socks. So the ones that I've made so far are just stockinette for the leg and the foot parts. And I think rib socks would be very comfortable, very stretchy, obviously, and also like squishy and warm. So for a ribbed sock in particular, I would definitely want to knit it on a size 1. So that's the state of my current, knitting project. I am still working on my Petite Knit Olga jacket. I'm working on the sleeves at this point, just in the round doing stripes. So I'm kind of alternating between working a bit on my socks, and then I'll knit a few rounds on the sleeve, and hopefully that one will come together soon as well. But honestly, I'm really thrilled. It's so fun when something that you have been putting off because of frustration or fear or intimidation or whatever it is, you think it's going to be hard or fussy and you just don't want to deal with it, to then pick it up and have it go well and have so much joy from it is such a good feeling. It's like when you have a task that you need to do that's small, but you put it off forever, and then when you finally do it, it's like, oh, that wasn't bad at all, and I feel so good for having done it. So I'm really glad that I finally finished this. Again, I will try to insert a clip of the yarn if I've received it. I will also include a before and after. I'll show you guys blocking this and what it looks like before and after as well. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know all of your tips and tricks for sock knitting. I think it's going to carry me through the next several months. I will be sure to link my Substack below. I will chat with you very soon in the next one.